Welcome to Architrave Gaming. I'm the Archmaster. Today, at the more or less request of my viewers, I'm going to give a more detailed and comprehensive understanding of my game's name and the relationship between the brand and the name and the book itself and whatnot. I'm going to show you what I'm going for and again ask for your advice on what name I should have for my game system, and to give you a framework with which to understand what I'm actually going for. So, yeah, if you aren't interested in the name of my game, then this isn't a video for you. So, this is the way we currently have it. This is the way we kind of like it right now. It's Apsildon is the brand. The system itself, the actual game system you're purchasing, is Bloods of Ignero. Of course, it could, used to be Arches and Avatars. It could be any number of things. That's what we're trying to figure out. And then it could come in several books. You can have an adventure book, a setting book, etc. The player's guide, it's not going to be called that, but it can be called, the player's guide. That's the book. And the engine that it runs off of is the Colonnade engine. Now, this might not make a lot of sense at first, but if I show you another example, it may help. So we go down, here's a, the same system, Bloods of Ignero, and we would have a monster book. We would have a setting guide. We would have the Game Master's Guide, etc. These would be a bunch of different books with their own names, but they would also all say Bloods of Ignero to let you know what system they were a part of, and they would all say Apsildon to let you know the brand. So another way to understand this, another example, is the game Star Wars Edge of the Empire. The brand is Star Wars, the system is Edge of the Empire, and they have a player's guide, and it runs off of the Star Wars D6 system. Here is an example of that book on Amazon. It says Star Wars, Edge of the Empire, role-playing game, and then core rulebook. So they have all of those words on the front of the book because they all carry vital information. Star Wars tells you the brand, Edge of the Empire is the system itself, and the core rulebook is that specific book. Now, that's not entirely accurate because I wouldn't want to do it the way they did it, anyway, I'll get to it. Part of the problem that I'm trying to avoid is what does come up here. This does it, mostly right, but it says role-playing game. Why does it say role-playing game? Well, because this is their actual website. They have Star Wars, the role-playing game, right? Edge of the Empire is technically not the name of the system. It is the name of a setting. They have Edge of the Empire, Force Awakens or something, and I forget what they are, but they have, different settings. Oh, yeah, there's Age of Dawn of Rebellion, Age of the Force, Edge of the Empire, etc. They have these different settings, and they're all part of the same system. So what is the actual system name called? If Edge of the Empire is not the system name, which I think it should be. That's a good system name. That's where I would want my system name. Apsildon, Bloods of Ignero. But that's not the way they do it. What is their actual system name? Their system name is role-playing game. That's literally the name of the game itself. It is role-playing game. Because Edge of the Empire is a setting that belongs in the system role-playing game. And you can see that that's the case because you have Star Wars, the role-playing game, right here. I know this is kind of small, but right here on the left, you have Star Wars, the role-playing game. Okay? Star Wars is the brand. The product itself, the role-playing game, is called the role-playing game. And so you have Star Wars, the role-playing game, second edition. It's literally the name of it. And so you have a setting that's released for it called Edge of the Empire. So it's Star Wars, the role-playing game, Edge of the Empire, right? They reversed it to make it look better. But this is actually, the brand is Star Wars. The system itself is actually the role-playing game. And then the specific book is Edge of the Empire, right? They don't have player's guide there. So that's what I'm trying to avoid. I don't want a silly name like role-playing game, right? It's even worse when you get to D&D 5e, because their brand is Dungeons & Dragons. Dungeons & Dragons, or D&D, is not the game. It used to be the game back in 1976, but it is not the game anymore. You can find Dungeons & Dragons Baldur's Gate. Well, is Dungeons & Dragons the game? Well, no, Baldur's Gate is the game. That means Dungeons & Dragons is the brand. I found a board game, a boxed board game at a convention, and it said Dungeons and Dragons, I don't know, Heroes of the Dungeon. So Heroes of the Dungeon is the name of the system itself. Dungeons and Dragons is not the name of the game, of the system. It's the name of the brand. So I'm trying to avoid that confusion where D&D is a game to some people, but it's the brand to others. No. It has to be clear, right? Because D&D is the brand, the name of the system itself, when you sit down to play D&D with your player's handbook, the name of the system is actually 5th edition. You're playing a system called 5th edition, right? With Star Wars, you're playing a system called role-playing game, and in D&D, you're playing a system called 5th edition, okay? That's silly. That's what I'm trying to avoid. That's why I have all these different names stacked up. That's why we have Apsoldon, Bloods of Ichnaro, Player's Guide. That's why we have all those things, is so we don't have the silliness of my system being called 5th edition. And there's another pitfall is something like Draw Steel, something we're trying to avoid. Draw Steel does not have a brand at all. Draw Steel is the name of the system. And of course, they could say, oh no, Draw Steel is the name of the brand. Okay, well then you don't have a name for your system either. Either way. And of course, if they have the name, if they conflate the name of the brand with the name of the system, if they say, oh, it's the same thing. Our brand is Draw Steel and the system is Draw Steel. That's confusion. If you make a video game later, call it Draw Steel, well, what's the name of the game itself? Oh, this is Draw Steel, Heroes, like Monster Slayer. Well, then Monster Slayer is the name of the system, and you see, you can't have them be the same thing. So they technically, as far as I know, do not have a brand at all. They just have a system called Draw Steel. And the name of the book itself, if you go on their website, if you can scroll in, Draw Steel, oh, there we go, Draw Steel Heroes, Draw Steel Monsters, right? The actual name of the book itself is Heroes. In D&D, it would be Player's Handbook. For them, it's Heroes, Monsters, etc. But they don't have a brand. They have the company name, MCDM, just like I could have over here Architrave Gaming Presents, but I think that's kind of tacky. I don't want to put the company it's coming from foremost, right? That's like saying Lucasfilm Edge of the Empire instead of Star Wars Edge of the Empire. It doesn't really matter who makes it. You don't see Wizards of the Coast Dungeons and Dragons, right? You don't put the company name on the front of a book. You can put the brand name on the front of the book, right? And of course, they're using their company name as their brand, so more power to them, I guess. But anyway, those are the different ways that I see other people doing it, and those are the problems that I have with it, where it's not clear, it's not concise, and so this is what I'm going for. I'm going for very clear, very concise. There's a lot of information on the front of the book, but I think that's actually important to have. I want to have, Apsoldon appear at the top, not Architrave Gaming Presents. I want it to say Apsoldon, and then Bloods of Ichnaro, and then, we have a subtitle. And then down here, instead of, Beta 0.1, it would say Player's Guide. Of course, it's not actually going to say that. I have a different name for it, but Player's Guide. And then a tagline. So, yes, it's a lot of stuff. It's 5 different things on the front, but I think that's okay. I don't have a problem with that. So, hope that clears things up. This was made specifically for a viewer of mine, Canticle of Restlessness, major commenter, always trying to figure out what I'm actually going for and how to help and whatnot. So, really appreciate him asking. And this is what I'm going for. This is the brand, the system, the book, and the engine is the Colonnade engine. I don't. Yeah. The rest of this video is just rambling. If you have opinions, you can go ahead and type them now, or go on our Discord, link in description. But one of the reasons I don't want to just call it, Apsoldon, the role-playing game, is I don't want the role-playing game on the front of that. It's too meta. It's not an evocative, interesting, title. I would much rather, instead of Star Wars or the role-playing game, say Star Wars, Heroes of the Republic. Give it a cool name. And everyone knows, oh, Heroes of the Republic is the tabletop role-playing game. It doesn't have to say the role-playing game or the tabletop role-playing game, right? That's fit for a tagline at the bottom. A pencil and paper role-playing game, right? That should not be the name of the system. In my opinion, it's not evocative enough. So, Apsoldon is the brand. I like Bloods of Ichnaro. I really do. But I'm also looking for a one-word, probably a composite word for the system itself, because I think it's actually better to avoid an acronym. because people acronymize. People acronymize everything, especially online when they're typing, and that is just less clear. And you can tell people, hey, you really shouldn't use acronyms. You should, type it out. But they're still going to use acronyms. So if I get a word that is small enough that it's convenient to write, that they don't have to make an acronym for, that might be better. That's not highest priority or anything, but it's something that I'm looking toward. If I could call it Dreamblood or just Ichniro, then that's short enough that, you're not going to acronymize Dreamblood, right? Of course, some people would just say DB, which is, come on, please, don't. But Ichniro, no one's going to acronymize that. It's one word, so they would just type it. But it just seems odd because you have something like Star Wars, Edge of the Empire. You have a brand that is generally shorter than the name of the system. And it just sounds odd to me to say Apsildon Ichniro. It's these two words just on top of each other. It feels odd, right? And again, you don't want to leave out Apsildon because then you have the draw steel situation where if you want to make a movie or a video game or something else in the universe with that brand, you can't because you didn't put a brand on your book. So I want the brand. The brand does have to be there. But just Apsildon Ichniro Player's Guide, it's like, well, what is the name of the system, right? Bloods of Ichniro sounds like a system name. Ichniro by itself doesn't. It's, in my opinion. So that's where I am now. That's what we're going for. We're really hoping to get a good name. I'm stuck on this screen because I really like Bloods of Ichniro. I just haven't had enough positive feedback for me to lock it in. But yeah, anyway, this used to be, arches and avatars until people at a convention are like, dude, it's a bad name. You gotta change it. It stinks. Oh, all right, fine. I'll change it. Which actually, them telling me that it needed to go helped me realize myself, wait a minute. Arches and avatars would actually go better somewhere else. And I didn't change it because they told me to. I changed it because their advice helped me realize that I actually wanted it to be changed. And I wouldn't have noticed that until they told me. So anyway, thank you for watching. Feed the algorithm, but more importantly, please comment or join my Discord for a full discussion with others and tell me what your opinion on this is. We have, again, a bunch of other options: Blood of Dreams, Blood of Waking Dreams, Dreams Blood, or just Dreamblood all by itself. You just dun 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 dun. Dreamblood, kind of like that one. Bloods of Ichniro, Arcann's Blood, Dreamwake. I don't like either of those. Bloods of Ichniro is what I like. Dreamblood is also cool. It's pretty much these two that I'm looking at now. I think Bloods of Ichniro sounds cooler. It's more recognizable. There's a fantasy word in there. It's Greek. And Dreamblood, again, hopefully people won't acronymize that. Hopefully they'll just say Dreamblood, when they're typing it out, so that you get a little more advertisement and brand recognition, because people will remember Dreamblood. They won't remember DB, right? Bloods of Ichniro, people are just going to say boy. What are you going to do? You can't control everything. But yeah, these are the two that I'm looking at. Hopefully, if people are typing out Bloods of Ichniro, they won't just say BOI, they'll say Ichniro. They'll type it out, hopefully. Anyway, this is what I'm looking at. And if what I really need from viewers is insight into things that I can't see. A different way of looking at it, a different perspective, because this is what I see. I see, 5e, Edge of the Empire, Draw Steel, etc. I see a bunch of other games out there, and I see how they are. I see how they're, branded and named and all that, and that I have a certain perspective, a certain experience of what a game name ought to be, but that's not everything. So if you can give me more information, that'd be great. I guess I'm just going to keep going. There's one more thing to say. You know how I said the brand itself, I don't want to say Apsildon Ichniro because, it's two single word fantasy words. And so the customer that's looking at it might be confused as to which one is which and what that actually means. And so I said, the system name has to be longer than the brand name. It's not technically necessary that the system name is longer than the brand name, because you have something like The Elder Scrolls Skyrim. And so the brand name is a lot longer than the actual game name, the system name. And so it doesn't have to necessarily be shorter or longer, but I do think they have to be different. And when you look at Apsildon, it's one word. It's short. It can't really be the long one. It has to be the short one. It's a single word. So that means the system name has to be longer. Of course, as Canticle suggested, we could say something like Arches of Apsildon, or Adventures in Apsildon, and then have the system just be Ignero. But I don't like that, because if I make a video game or a movie or a book or anything else, I want to be able to have a nice clean brand, Apsildon. I don't want it to have to say Adventures in Apsildon, Arches of Apsildon, or anything else. I want it clean. I want it short, single word. I think that's good. So this is what I'm looking at now. It's either Bloods of Ignero as the system name, or Dream Blood. And I'm just not sure. I like both of them. I really, really like Bloods of Ignero more than the rest. Anyway, BLG, if y'all could weigh in and give me your opinion, I'd really appreciate that. All right, thank you all for watching, for liking and subscribing and feeding the algorithm and all that stuff, and giving me your opinion, because that is what is requested most right now. And thank you. Have a good day. God bless.